Hello friends, welcome to economics class, and here we are going to deal with the current affairs from January 2022, and we'll be going through the important topics here based on the current affairs from last year. So first we are starting off with terms and terminologies which appeared in the news. So these are the three topics that we'll be handling: GDP, NDP, GNP, NNP, national income, unemployment, and then poverty. In this section only three topics are there. So without any delay, heading on to the topics. GDP, NDP, GNP, NNP, national income. So what do you mean by GDP? The final value of all the goods and services produced within the geographic territory. That means we will count both the nationals and the foreigners here. NDP is what? GDP minus depreciation, but depreciation is also called the replacement investment. Clear, people? So we know this. Then GNP. GNP is what? The final value of the goods and services produced by all the nationals of the country. We don't include the foreigners. That means even the money earned by Indians who are staying abroad, that is counted under GNP. Whereas under GDP, we count the money earned by Indians and foreigners who are staying inside India. NNP is GNP minus depreciation. And then you have national income, which is NNP at factor cost. Now, what do you mean by this? Factor cost is basically the wages plus interest plus profit plus the rent. Wages for the laborers, interest for the capital, profit for the entrepreneur, rent for the land. Then you have the basic price. What basic price is what? The factor cost plus the production taxes minus the production subsidy. And then you have market price, which is basically basic price plus product tax minus the product subsidy. This is our understanding so far. Now, why this was in news? Let us see that GDP is measured by the output method, which is the value of the goods and services, the income method, which is wages plus profit plus interest plus rent, which is, and then the expenditure method, C plus I plus consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus X minus export minus import. Gross value added is the total value of the goods and services produced within a country after deducting the cost of input and raw material. When we talk about value addition, the formula is basically the value of production minus the value of intermediate goods. Clear, people? So that is the idea here. GVA is used to measure sector-wise details of economic activity from the production side. And what is GDP using GVA? GDP is the total gross value added in each sector plus the net taxes on products minus the net subsidies on products. In 2015, as part of comprehensive review of GDP measurement, GVA at basic prices with base year 2011-12 became the primary measure of output across the economy's various sectors in India to conform with UN System of National Accounts 2008. That is, GVA at basic prices is being used for what? To calculate the output of various sectors in the economy. All right. Now, if I want to know overall economic activity, then what do? GVA at factor cost. GVA at factor cost will give me what? The overall economic output. That is the idea here. Quarterly and annual estimates of GVA are given by the National Statistical Office, which comes under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. And this covers for eight broad sectors. And which are those eight broad sectors that covers goods and services? Agriculture, forestry, fishing, mining and quarrying, manufacturing, electricity, gas, water supply and other utility services, construction, trade, hotels, transport, communication and services related to broadcasting, financial, real estate and professional services, public administration, defense and other services. Please go through this list. Potential prelims question can come from here. Clear, people? Moving on. So basically, why are we discussing all this? Because basically in financial 21, GDP growth lagged by GVA growth by 180 basis points. That means 1.8 percentage. Why? Because of high subsidy and reduced taxes that were collected due to lockdown. So GDP lagged behind gross value added. Whereas in financial 22, because of record tax collection and reduced subsidies, GDP growth was 60 basis points higher than GVA. In financial 2023, GDP-GVA divergence is likely to continue with GDP growth lagging GVA once again on account of increasing subsidies, on account of global commodity price rising, increasing fertilizer subsidy, fuel tax cuts to curb inflation. So basically, the entire article was about what? GDP, GVA, lag. So sometimes GDP overtaking GVA, sometimes GVA overtaking GDP. Clear, people? Now let us come to the term unemployment. So here what you need to understand is it is basically the next two terms what we are going to see. Unemployment, poverty, it is to deal with definitions. So unemployment rate means it refers to the unemployed who are willing to work, actively looking for a job, expressed as a percentage of the labor force. And what do you mean by labor force? Anybody who is more than 15 years of age and they are either employed or they are unemployed and are willing to work and are actively looking for a job. That is what you mean by labor force. So labor force does not mean only those people who are working. It also means those people who are unemployed, they are looking for a job and are willing to work. Clear, people? Now, the National Statistical Office launched periodical labor force survey on April 2017. So NSO again releases data for unemployment. That is the periodic labor force survey on April 2017. Then labor force indicators. What are the labor force indicators? Labor force participation rate, worker population ratio, and unemployment rate. Distribution of workers by broad status in employment industry of work in the current weekly status for the urban areas. So what is current weekly status? What is worker population ratio and LFPR? Let us see them one by one. LFPR is defined as percentage of persons in labor force that is working or seeking or available for work in the population. That means people who are working, people who are willing to work but are employed and are actively seeking it. The percentage, their number divided by the population. That is what is called as labor force participation rate. Worker population ratio, it is defined as the percentage of employed person in the population. Only the ones who are employed, that comes under worker population. Labor force participation rate means what? It includes the people who are working plus the people who are unemployed and are actively seeking work and are willing to work divided by the whole population. And what about unemployment rate? It is defined as the percentage of persons unemployed among the persons in the labor force. Clear, people? Activity status or usual status. Activity status of a person is determined on the basis of the activities pursued by the person during the specified reference period. So how do you define activity status? What was the activity of that person during a particular reference period? When the activity status is determined on the basis of reference period of last 365 days preceding the date of survey, it is known as usual activity status. So usual activity status is what? For 1 year. Current weekly status. Activity status determined on the basis of a reference period of last 7 days preceding the date of survey is known as current weekly status of the person. So normal activity status or usual activity status is 365 days. Normal activity status or weekly activity status is 7 days. As per current weekly status, a person is considered as unemployed in a week if he did not work even for at least 1 hour on any day during the reference week but sought or was available for work. Now, associated with this, let us see a few changes that have happened with regard to gig workers. The Code on Wages 2019 provides for universal minimum wage and floor wage across organized and unorganized sectors, including gig workers. So, gig workers are also entitled to what? Universal minimum wage. The Code on Social Security 2022 recognizes gig workers as a new occupational category and provides them with life and disability cover, accidental insurance, health and maternity benefits, old age protection, and other protections. Clear, people? It also proposed to establish a social security fund and a national social security board to supervise and formulate schemes for the well-being of gig and platform workers. Platform workers means people who work for Ola, Uber, Amazon, Zomato, Swiggy, etc. because they offer a platform through which you can work. And yes, platform workers do come under the broader definition of gig workers. Clear, people? Then you have eShram portal. To create database of unorganized workers, including gig workers, the government brought in eShram portal. It is created to give social security benefits. Example, entitlement to get accidental insurance benefits under Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana. All right. Then, according to Ministry of Labor and Employment, as of March 2022, more than 270 million workers have registered on eShram portal, out of which nearly 53% are what? Females and 47% are male. Clear, people? That is the prelims related hotspot with regard to eShram portal. More females had registered, 53%. compared to males, 47%. Coming to our last and final topic for the day, poverty. Based on the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy Consumer Pyramid Household Survey, found a 12.3 percentage decline in extreme poverty in India from 22.5 percentage in 2011 to 10.2 percentage in 2019. In comparison, based on the Consumer Expenditure Survey and other data sets, including subsidy adjustments, IMF paper suggested that India has almost eliminated extreme poverty, reaching 1.3 percentage in 2019 from 10.8 percentage. So both World Bank and IMF together, they are telling what poverty in India has declined. During which time period? 2011 to 2019. One must understand here, this is before the corona. So corona has actually pushed a lot of people into poverty. It has even undone a lot of the efforts that were done. All right. In the past, poverty. It is defined as a state or a condition of a person or a community with lack of money or access to resources to enjoy a decent standard of living. It is usually measured as either absolute or relative poverty based on a poverty threshold or a poverty line, with people falling under this threshold or line being considered as poor. Absolute poverty or extreme poverty represents the lack of sufficient resources to secure basic life necessities such as safe drinking water, food, or sanitation. Example, people earning less than 1.9 on purchasing power parity basis a day are considered extremely poor by the World Bank. So World Bank's definition of poverty is what? If a person is living under $1.9 is considered as what? Per day is considered as what? Poor. That roughly translates to what? Living under 160 rupees in India per day. If you are learning less than 160 rupees, then you are poor, by extremely poor by World Bank's definition. Relative poverty represents the worst income and resource status of a person or a household than what is thought to be adequate or socially acceptable in the society in which they live. That is, relative means you are comparing it with a benchmark. Compared to the benchmark, how that is in the society where you live, compared to that benchmark, average benchmark, how poor you are. That is what you call as relative poverty. Then, different ways are there to define poverty. The well-being approach, which was given by Eric Allard, which includes three dimensions: material, that is access to material resources, then social, then spiritual or emotional. Clear, people? There are three ways. Then the capabilities approach given by Amartya Sen, which was an alternative to income, and consumption. OECD has developed multidimensional capabilities framework with five capabilities such as economic capabilities, human capabilities, political capabilities, socio-cultural capabilities, and security capabilities. So capabilities given by whom? OECD. World Bank gave what? $1.9. Eric gave what? Eric gave basically three dimension. Clear, people? Just keep it in mind. That is all that you need. In prelims, you just need to identify things. Don't by heart anything. Keep reading it. Then you have multidimensional poverty index, which was given by UNDP for measuring and describing household poverty based on three dimensions, where you have 10 indicators: education, health, and the standard of living. Under education, you have years of schooling and school attendance. Under health, you have child mortality and nutrition. Under standard of living, you have electricity, drinking water, sanitation, flooring, cooking fuel, and then assets. National Multidimensional Poverty Index given by Niti Aayog in consultation with UNDP and Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. Very, very important. First developed in 2010 by UNDP and Oxford Poverty and Human Development Index, Multidimensional Poverty Index is a poverty estimation measure used in UNDP's flagship Human Development Report. Again, important. It is based on three macro dimensions of poverty: health, education, and living standards. Again, covering 10 indicators. Continuation from the previous slide itself. Multidimensional poverty index helps in identifying most vulnerable people, the poorest among the poor, and the revealing poverty patterns within countries over time. India was ranked at 62 out of 109 nations with 27.9% population as multidimensionally poor. Part of Global Indices for Reforms and Growth Initiative, the latest index is based on the MPI from UNDP and Oxford PHI, with inclusion of two additional indicators, that is antenatal care and bank account, under the dimensions of health and standard of living. This baseline report of India's first ever national MPI measure is based on the reference period of 2015-16 of the National Family Health Survey. So National Multidimensional Poverty Index at 0.118 with rural MPI at 0.155 and urban MPI at 0.04. Multidimensional poverty index ranges from 0 to 1, and higher values imply higher poverty. Highest poverty states Bihar, followed by Jharkhand and UP. Lowest Kerala, followed by Puducherry and Lakshadweep. Households that were deprived of healthy nutrition levels stands at 37.6%. Households deprived of 6 years of schooling, 13.9%. Households with unimproved or no sanitation facility, 52%. Now, with that, we come to an end of our first part. So, every day I'll be uploading parts under the current affairs. This was the first part. The next part will be not exactly capital market, but yes, what I find or feel is most important, that I will be covering. All right, people. Any suggestions, any comments that you have, please put it up in the comment section. This is different from the basics economic series that I'm uploading separately. This is current affairs exclusively for economics from last year, January 2022, exclusively targeting May 2023 prelims. All right, people, happy studying. God bless. Take care.